Thanks for joining me today in lesson 29 of Learn to Play Violin with me, where I play the role of both teacher and student, and we learn how to play the violin together. Make sure you have your bow rosined and your violin tuned, and we'll get right to it. 15-minute timer is started. Let's check out our book, page number 20. We had just sight read number 70, Hot Cross Buns. So we are going to try playing this. We'll split it apart into chunks. Oh, hey, Gary. He's joining us again. So we have an audience just like last lesson. We are going to split this song into chunks. We'll start slow, and then we will work up the tempo to moderato, which is a medium tempo, and we'll put it all together. So let's take a look at number 70. There's a repeat sign, and also there is the very last beat of measure 4. There is a bow lift, which means the last note we played was a down bow, and the first note, because of the repeat, is also a down bow. So we have to lift the bow and start and move it back into the down bow position. Let's try measures 1 and 2, which if you look at them, they are exact replicas of each other, except for the bow direction. We start with the down bow, so the pattern is down, up, down, then we stop for the rest, which means measure 2 starts with that triangle, an up bow, up, down, up, rest. That's the only difference between measures 1 and 2. Let's try to play it. F sharp is 2 fingers here. F sharp. Let's try it. 1, 2, ready, play. Rest, rest. Let's try that again. D, E, F sharp. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, play. Rest, rest. All right, let's look at measures 3 and 4. When I was teaching in public school, elementary music, I would teach the students, the third graders, how to play the recorder. Many of you may have learned how to play that or are currently learning how to play that. And Hot Cross Buns was the very first song that we would learn how to play. For some reason, in between measures 2 and 3, kids would always get super confused at the fact that measure 2 ended on a D and measure 3 started with a D. I think they were just expecting, because measures 1 and 2 were F sharp, E, D, then F sharp, E, D. Their fingers and their brains just wanted to automatically go back to that F sharp, since that's how the first 2 measures started. So we always had to remember, make a conscious effort to remember that you stay on D at the end of measure 2, because it's also the first note of measure 3. So we'll play measure 3 and 4, and then we'll work on measures 2 and 3 so we can make sure that we get that point nailed down before we put it all together. Let's try measure 3 and 4. Remember, these are our 8th notes, so the rhythm is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Matches the words of the song. 1 a penny, 2 a penny. Here we go. 1 and 2 and ready, play, and rest. All right, let's try measures 3 and 4 again. You notice that measure 4 is exactly like measures 1 and 2, note-wise, and it's exactly like measure 1 in terms of the bow direction. Measure 3, ready, play. Rest. Since we're playing so many notes in measure 3, we are going to stay towards the tip side of the bow. So we don't have enough time, and it wouldn't really make sense to go, we don't do bow lengths, the entire bow length for those 8th notes. So we just kind of stay right here. so that we can effectively play those eighth notes fast enough, those eighth notes fast enough. Let's try measures 3 and 4. One more time, focusing on that, on staying on the tip side of the bow. We start with the down bow. So I'm actually going to start not all the way at the frog, but I'll start about halfway. Ready, play. Rest. Okay, let's try that again. My fingers did not go to the right spot. Ready, and... rest. Now let's practice that transition from the end of measure 2 to the beginning of measure 3. Let's try starting at measure 2. We're going to play measure 2 and measure 3. All right. Starting with F sharp on an up bow. So you're starting out by the tip. Let's see. All right, start with an up bow, which is up by the tip. Ready, play. Rest. All right, let's try that again, starting with an F sharp on measure 2. Ready, play. Rest. All right, let's try it the entire way through. Remember, there's a repeat sign, so we're going to do it twice with that bow lift at the end of the first time through. F sharp, 1, 2, ready, play. Rest. Up bow. Rest. Bow lift, repeat. Rest. 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 Sorry, I had a mess up there. Play the wrong note. Let's try that again. If you need to pause it and go over a certain spot, feel free to do so. Focus repetition is key to getting better at anything, so break it into chunks before putting it back together if there's a certain spot that you're struggling with. F sharp. Let's try it. 1, 2, ready, play. Rest. Rest. Lift. Rest. 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 So now that we're starting to switch notes faster, pretty soon, actually on the next page, we are going to start jumping around a little more and really starting to switch between those two strings that we know so far, the D string and the A string. So I was kind of looking ahead a little bit, and it led me to a question, because there's a part that happens in the next page where it's very difficult to move from one note to the next and keep all your fingers down. So I did a little bit of light research, talking to my friend who's a string teacher, shout out to Chris, you're amazing, and the good old internet, right? I threw it up into Google, and I asked the question, when it says a 2, like F sharp is 2 fingers. Is it 2 fingers or is it your second finger? When you play a G, right, is it 3 fingers or is it your third finger? So which is it? What does that 3 mean? Does that mean you have to put 3 fingers down or your third finger down? Because what happens on the next page is it becomes really cumbersome if we're putting all 3 fingers down to move to the next note, which is on the other string. It's a B. It's going from a G, I'll just tell you, it's going from a G, which is 3 fingers on the D string, to a B, which is 1 finger on the A string. So moving 3 fingers and then to 1 finger is really cumbersome. So that kind of inspired me to do a little bit of research and ask the question. And it's both. So at the beginning when you're learning an instrument, because remember I'm learning right along with you, so I don't know the answers as we go along. I have to figure them out. So in the beginning, to memorize, you work on muscle memory of where the individual notes are, since we don't have like fret lines telling us, we don't have frets telling us where exactly to put our fingers. It is 1, so that you put enough pressure down to hold the string tight against the fretboard, and 2, to have muscle memory of how far apart your fingers should be. At first, you do put down 2 fingers or all 3 fingers when you're playing a note that has a 2 above it or a 3 above it. But in reality, as you move on and your muscle memory starts kicking in and you start getting better at telling where your fingers should be placed on the violin string to produce the note you're going for, you don't need to put down all 3 fingers. So when you're playing G, it's not wrong to put down 3 fingers, but you only need to put down the third finger, finger number 3, which is your ring finger. When you're playing an F sharp, right, or a C sharp on the A string, you don't have to put down 2 fingers, both fingers. You just have to put down your second finger, right, which in violin is your middle. So I want you to keep that in mind, because pretty soon, I wanted to tell you beforehand, because pretty soon that's going to come in handy. Now that might be a little bit of an adjustment in your playing, or it might have already been starting to happen naturally during your playing, but I want to go through, all of that to say, I want to go through number 70, hot cross buns, and I want you to start experimenting with not necessarily putting down both fingers for the F sharp, just putting down finger 2. So when we play F sharp, put down 2, and then switch to 1 for the E and open for D, just to practice doing that. What I mean is here, so F sharp is 2, so my pointer finger is not on the string, just my middle is on the string, instead of putting both down securely, right, holding the string down, only holding the string down with the 2 fingers. So let's go through hot cross buns and try to experiment with that a little bit. Starting with F sharp, D, E, F sharp. Let's do it. 1, 2, ready, play. Again. Rest. Repeat. Rest. 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 I hope that felt okay, trying to experiment with lifting that ring finger when you're playing the F sharp. Now let's try it a little bit faster. F sharp, F sharp. 1, 2, ready, and rest. Rest. Bow lift. Rest. 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 A few times I noticed that I didn't change bow direction and change my fingers for the notes at the exact same time, so I got a little bit of a hiccup in between. So that will come with practice. I think my fingers were, when I said we're playing a little bit faster, my fingers were going at a slightly faster tempo than my right hand, my bow hand was playing, and it kind of got out of sync a little bit. So let's try it one more time at that faster tempo. And if you heard that happening with you, that's okay. We'll just keep working on it, right? And if it keeps happening, then pause the video, slow down the piece, and until you can then work up to the speed that we're at. Okay, 1, 2, ready, play. Rest. Rest. Repeat. Rest. 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 All right. Feel free to practice any of the stuff that we've been doing in the lessons, or go back the last 20 pages and pick a random song or a piece and play it to see how much progress you've made so far. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you on the next lesson.